close.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was David on the phone.
Yep. Here comes someone who's.
But normally there's nothing to meet on.
Hey, timing. No, don't be
Oh, you're
sorry.
fine.
We just got
You're fine.
started.
As you can see, there's hundreds of people here waiting for you tonight. You're good. All right, Randy, you got it all set?
Yep, there you go.
Since we have a quorum, we will start the meeting. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the May 19th, 2020 meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from.
All right. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the consideration and vote on a variance to the minimum setback requirement at 29330 Rockwood Avenue. Elite Home Builders is the applicant. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing? All right, I got a motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, Randy.
All right, well, Rockwood Estates was platted in 2003. So lot 13, which is in question 29330 Rockwood Avenue, is one of the smaller lots in development. It's also a corner lot. Therefore, it has a 20-foot build line on the north along 293rd and a 25-foot build line on the east along Rockwood Avenue. And it also has a rear setback of 25 feet. So it makes the building site a little smaller than all the other lots in Rockwood. So the issue is the applicant says that the Rockwood Homeowner Association covenants requires a minimum square footage for the style of home in that area, which they said will not fit with a 3-car garage on that lot. So they're requesting a variance to the setbacks. They would like for the 20-foot build line along 293rd to reduce to 15 and have the setback reduced to 10 foot. So like to build up to the utility easement, the 10 foot, which that setback would abut a green space. So there's nothing currently there or will ever be there. So then I have the standards for the variance that are laid out in our land development ordinance. So if we just go through those real quick. The land use is allowed in the zoning district. It'll be a single family home. Special circumstances or conditions exist particular to the land or building for which the variance is sought that do not apply generally to lots, land, or buildings in the neighborhood. The lot is smaller. It is not the smallest there because they have village housing, which has smaller site areas anyway, but it is one of the smaller ones for that part of the development. Special circumstances have not been a result in the act of the applicant. The lot was platted this way before the applicant owned the lot and purchased it to build. Special circumstances and conditions are so strict that the LDO would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land. This is kind of tricky because it's the HOA regulations that actually make it not buildable. They could still build a house according to the city regulations, but they feel like it would take away from the character of the neighborhood if they did that. So, which way? And then granting the variance is necessary to relieve the unnecessary hardship to create the regulations. That's essentially the same thing as above. According to city regulations, they could build a house on that lot. It just wouldn't abide by the 1,600 square foot, I believe, that the HOA requires for that section of Rockwood. The variance granted is the minimum necessary relief for the hardship. Again, HOA regulations, city regulations would allow them to build on that lot. Granted, the variance will not be injurious to the neighborhood or the public. No, it would not. And granted, the variance is consistent with the intent of the LDO and comprehensive plan. Of course, the LDO and comprehensive plan would love to have houses and rooftops. But with that being said, this would be more going against the HOA regulations and the city regulations. There's asking you to bend the setback so they could build a house that complies with the HOA regulations. I know it's kind of a weird line, but so I think that is all the information I have for you. Attached, you have their whole application that they submitted. And it shows you the setbacks that they're requesting. There is a plat, I know it's small, of the entire Rockwood. There is an aerial view with the lot in question with a star on it. And then also, I'd like to note, attached are the emails that I received, the correspondence, that this is the only email correspondence that I have received or phone calls for this variance. So I'll go ahead and read those. This one is from the mean at 29342 Rockwood Avenue. It says that they do not want a house built on this land if it's not going to be uniform with the rest of the block. This will make the aesthetics of our entire block off. If we were told before we built our house that this lot would not be built on, which is part of the reason why we purchased the land. We oppose any variance to this lot that would not be uniform with other houses on our block. And the second email we received was from Kenny Olson. And he says that we want to protest. I'm not sure what we need to do. We were told when we moved in that this was green space as a house would not fit there. We feel like turning it sideways would make it fit would also make the end of the road look weird, as all other houses are going the same direction. The reason we picked the house we did instead of building our own down the street was that it would be green space, so we would not have one in front of us. Please let me know if they didn't know. Dawn Atwell, she's the applicant, she just entered, so is there anything else you would like to add? You can come up and.
Yes, step up,
Yes.
state your name.
Okay, I'm Dawn Atwell, I'm with the League of Home Builders, and yes, I submitted the application for variance. And I guess you all got the little plat map that shows the lot we're talking about. In regards to the Mineys, the first email that you, the first one I heard when I walked in.
That was the first one.
Okay.
Yes.
The Mineys have a point that is valid and a point that's not valid. They were not told that that was green space. You see that there is green space over here around the corner, just a little bit. Lot 13 is what it is. It is a funky design. That's part of what we were all going to talk about. And the green space is back behind the building line. The Mineys are right in the fact that nobody wants to build a little bitty house on this little bitty piece of land. We have houses similar to Mr. Olson, who was the second notification, that we could try to fit on this lot, and it would fit if we could have a little bit of a variance. The variance request that we're asking for is relative to this sheet that is in my packet. The yellow lines are the easement lines, and the pink lines are the build setbacks. That's where the county, that's where the codes inspector wants us to stay within the pink line there on the back side. Our variance would be, can we move past that build line designation closer to the easement, closer to the utility easement? Then we could fit what we need to fit on this house, on this lot. We know that in construction, you don't cross the utility easement. The utility guys have to be in there. If you put anything there, they'll tear it out. So we know we not do that. But we feel like we're going to need just that part of this extra 10 feet. get back that way. Another part of our snag on this piece of ground is up here in this corner that's close to the street. In this corner, you see the lot curves this way too, and the width of our house is too wide. It'll fit here, but it won't fit here. And we're short by about 5 feet both ways. And that's where our variance is coming in, to ask for what it takes to be able to get one of our houses on there. We have other houses in the community that would be, they've already been approved, and we use the engineers here in town to lay them out on the land to make sure it's going to fit well. The engineers who drew this up for us to give us a feel for, this is how much room you've got to work with. One of the variables here is, we could modify a house and take the third car garage off. But then we don't have continuity amongst all the houses in the neighborhood, at this end of the neighborhood. The villas down at the other end, they have 2-car garages, but up in here, where these people are contesting their little money to look the same, we feel like we need to try to make a 3-car garage fit here. So, that's kind of where we're at. We're real close to being able to fit on this. The developer who created this really did a disservice. It has never been designated green space. Again, the piece that's back here behind it is designated green space. And that's for utility easement. That's why it's green with intention for the utilities. Any questions?
How big a house do you build?
Well, we've got 2 that we would propose to put on there. Essentially, they're both almost 60 feet wide.
So how many square feet?
Oh,
That's the easiest thing.
except for, you need to know the square feet on the first floor. And they usually run between 16 and 1,700 square feet, depending on which plan. There's also finished footage in the basements.
Right.
And some of them get up close to 3,000 by the time of the basement.
Okay, so let me rephrase this question.
Okay.
The patio homes that are down on the other side of the mine.
Yeah.
What side is the square foot?
Those, the villas don't start right there at mine.
Well, there's a lot or so
Yeah,
between them. But
yeah.
there's some villas, that whole street, if you start at the one end and come up, there are villas until you get up
Close
a
to.
couple lots from the corner, and then they turn in, then you have Mining's house. And then you have, of course, across the street, and then the houses across the street. Yeah. So,
The restrictions for the subdivision require that the villas have, I'm thinking, 1,400 square foot on the first floor. And then the estates are required to have 1,600 square feet on first floor, on ground floor. I didn't bring the HOA book with me to confirm that, but I'm thinking that that's what I remember from the variance too.
if I'm looking at this map,
Uh-huh.
and you've got 73 foot on the lot next door, which is Mining's, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's 73 foot by 110 foot. Property.
Not buildable
No,
space.
but property.
Yes.
The one on the corner is 81 by 110. Basically. So it's actually a little bigger than theirs. is.
And the lining?
Yeah, the lot size is, yeah. So what they've got, they bought 2 lots in there.
There's 3 lots there, and they split the one in the middle, so they
Okay,
got 1.5.
Okay, okay, that explains that.
Yes. And, I'll save this comment for a minute.
that answered my question. I mean, they didn't- No, no.
I thought they had two lots and one house. Like, I'm looking at the lot to the south of them, how do you build a house on that?
To the south of mining. Again, it's a lot and a half.
So they merged, okay.
Uh-huh. They split. the one
So
in the-
that blue line is not there anymore.
That's a shadow, and that's not part of, I don't know what you're looking at, but I know it looks like a property line, but no, that's not a property.
And then then you get behind them, and those are all patios, or the villas behind.
As it turns around on,
What is it?
Palmer.
Yeah, on Palmer.
First one of the tree.
Yes, those are all designated villas on the back side of the mine. They're big enough lots as far as width goes, but they're not very deep on the back side of mine.
And this house would run east and west. Is that happening?
No, we're flexible, whatever will be given or assigned, we'll make it work. We just need a little more either depth or width, depending on which way you want us to lay it out. We can turn the corner if we need to. The people across the street, the Olsons, their homes didn't fit on that lot. It was originally designated to have the driveway off of 293rd Street. That was a spec house. We came to the same problem where we couldn't make it fit if it faced 293rd. So we asked for a reassignment, and we were allowed to flip the house and have it accessible off of Rockwood. We built that house, we were done with it, and the Olsons, their home someplace else sold, and they needed a house fast. So they didn't have commitment like this is green space forever. I don't know where they got that. They needed a house fast. They did want to build further down the street on 293rd, but their timing didn't work out.
And the HOA says a minimum of 1,600 square feet. Is that what you're saying? And, okay. And if you tried to put it, can you put 1,600 square foot on that lot?
Almost,
Almost.
almost. Yeah. The house, the Olson's house, for
Right.
example, is immediately across the street. We can almost make it fit. We can make it fit on the 60 wide.
Right.
Okay, and we can make it fit on this 81 deep on the street side. But we can't make it fit on this piece here that is,
Access to the green space.
the pink line right here, that is our build line inside of the 73-foot property line. So what, well, again, the variance request is allow us to exceed the build line and just move to the utility or dotted lines on the map.
Randy, how does this fit with the city and their infrastructure around this area? I mean, if they build close to this, are they going to be building close to water pipes that are going to be harder to get to?
I don't believe the water line goes back behind.
There's no water line there.
There's water line here at the front, running across the front. And we have to build around that all day anyway. So
So
yeah,
you're not affecting that at all,
no.
right? Yeah. So it really doesn't affect the city as far as easement,
No.
anything like that.
So, I don't know if we can hold a public hearing down. So, but I understand this correctly. They can build a house on there, not in HOA guidelines. So we're given a variance, so they can build it in HOA guidelines.
Pretty much.
Have we went to the HOA and see if they give their variance?
The HOA president has offered us things to a different page here.
And I'm looking at this map, and this could be a completely different thing. If I was building a house on this lot, I'd want to sit at county quarter with a with a road going that way. And so I don't know if that does setbacks, but I'm not an engineer. So but anyway, I think to me, this is an HOA issue, not no offense to you, that's,
The HOA is the one who kind of got us started on this. He said, the president, we will give you this green space that's behind your lot. We will give it to you if you will add it to that lot and build on it. That will help you get your building done. So we pursued that with them and they ran it down their legal path, and the legality is from days gone past, they are never allowed to retitle this piece of green space. They can't gift it to us, essentially. He did say, while it can't be officially titled to whoever owns this piece of land someday, a future homeowner, if they choose to maintain this, he will allow them to have access to this. He will write them a contract that says, you're granted, overflow room onto our green space for your family events or whatever, non-permanent activities that go on there. You can't put in a driveway over there, but you can have that as part of your yard, is what he's offering. But that's down the road anyway. But that's where this started, is that they were offering initially to give us this piece of land to add to lot 13. But can't do it. Any questions?
And these are the only two protests that come about.
And we agree with Minings that they don't need a little bitty house there. It will not look right. The houses on the other three corners are good sized houses. Nice placement on the lot, We don't want to crowd the lot. We don't want to build a 2-story house. We could build a 2-story house all day long and meet the requirements of the HOA. And we'd be okay with the city. But most of these houses in this subdivision are ranches. We prefer to build a ranch.
Sorry.
And
You
right,
can't get it with a walkout basement and easement windows and.
we can't get all those pieces in there in this designated space.
Close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to close the
Okay.
public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, public hearing is closed.
That's not saying you can't speak anymore.
Quickly.
No, that's just.
That's just a formality.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like Travis, it's more of an HOA issue than it's a city issue. I mean, when they developed this area and platted it out, they knew that was gonna be an issue. Matter of fact, the whole plat down through on that street appears to have been originally the, whatever those are called,
The villas.
yeah, the village.
And if they were looking at this, they should have done a lot and a half the other way. Like,
Yeah, so, I think there's more HOA, when they platted it issues, than to come in and for the city to say, we want to change our requirements to take care of it. That's the way I feel.
There's not really much that the city has to do to take care of it. With the exception of just allow us to come, within our property line. We don't get to build side to side. We have to stay here. And really, we just need to be allowed to build there. People do it all the time when they have a house that fits in their property, but they need to put a deck on it. They will go to the codes department, ask for a variance so that I can build my deck a little further over the line. And, we're kind of just right in there. We're just at that place with the codes department that we need a variance.
And I understand what you're saying. this wouldn't even be an issue.
Well,
Because that whole street would have been the villas. There would have never been
a big
on
old
that
house.
side of that
Yeah.
street, one big house. And then now somebody else, now another big house wants to be built there. And there's just not the land to do it without granting the variance for the project, for the build line.
Who approved the, sorry,
So go ahead.
who approved the, how does that get done, splitting a lot in half? How does that go about? Is that an HOA thing or is that a city thing?
I can't tell you when that was done. That was,
Or just,
I mean, then on the flip side of the coin, you look at that end of the block and it is all the bigger houses with the 3-car garage. Across the street, to the south, to the north. So a bigger house visually fits better in that neighborhood than a smaller home does. So I understand that piece too. So it's one of these, do you make it look right by granting the variance? Or do you stay with the way it's platted and the HOA and stay with the way it was intended to be done in the first place?
Things can always change after time. It always does. There's always variances that come through.
so if that side was platted to be the villas and be the smaller lots, going back to, how did that get approved for, I mean, it's a huge home. Like, how does that all come about? Like, this is just me talking, like,
so if someone comes into Hill City Hall and says, I want to build this out here, like, they want to build a 3-story house on this lot in Rockwood, we don't enforce the covenants. So if it fits and it fits in setbacks, go for it. So
so I'm just saying the HOA has these strict requirements and they're gonna allow this to happen. But they were set up, their HOA and all this was set up for this. And now we're gonna flip flop and let it just,
Blueprints, on the flat map, and see what you're planning to build there. And I understand from the lady that lives across the street on the mine, that the builder was there, ready to go, and they recognized they hadn't had an architectural review. Different builder, and they looked out the plans and had a meeting on the tailgate of his truck. And there was no time for study and probably some in-depth evaluation of, wow, how big that thing is going to be. It sits up higher out of the ground than a lot of the houses. It's a big old house. And maybe had they had more time, they'd have recognized that. But it is what it is. You got to prove it, the HOA.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion. I am going to make a motion to approve this variance to the minimum setbacks. I do that mainly because things, as Jim stated, things change over time. The lot can't be built on unless we do that. The character of the neighborhood at that end of the street is such that a bigger home is what fits in there than a smaller home. So I'm going to make the motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to be able to just clarify what you mean by the minimum setbacks. Want to make sure that when I go to the codes department and try to make sure I'm okay, that we're all on the same page. The utility easement is,
Okay, I'll restate the motion so it's a little clearer. I'm going to make a motion the application, or the applicant is requesting a 20-foot build line along 293rd Street be reduced to 15 foot, as well as the rear setback being reduced from 25 to 10 feet. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is what you requested. So I will make the motion to approve it with that. I'll let you clean that motion up.
That's totally fine, I got you.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to put it to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. 3-1.
Nope, you're more welcome to go.
All right, thank you. No problem.
All right. Next item on the agenda is consideration and a vote of recommendation for the proposed replat of lots 61 through 21 of Cherokee Ridge. Warren Snyder is the applicant.
This is a little unusual. This development was planted back in 2004. Lots 16 to 21 are the ones that run towards the back of the development that actually have no access to them right now. And they have been sitting there since 2004. This gentleman, Lauren Schneider, would like to replat them, all of these 6 lots into one lot, have access off Cherokee Lane, and build one house on there. During the replat, he recommended, let me find that here, that the 30-foot right-of-way for Poplar Ridge. The reason why it's only 30 foot is because back when it was platted, the lot or the land that was needed to do the 60-foot right-of-way to be able to make it a residential street was owned by a separate party, and they had trouble acquiring the extra 30 foot. That's why those lots were never developed in the first place, because they didn't have the access or the road frontage to be able to develop those 6 lots. So we would vacate that, keep the easements, switch the build lines, so, and extend the sewer easement. So essentially, he would get one large lot with, and the city would keep their easements, and we would get rid of the right of way. In the future, if we would acquire the land to develop towards the other side of Poplar Ridge, we would just acquire more right of way instead of the extra 30 feet. We just do 60 and do another development. So that's, I know it's a bit unusual, but at least there's some movement over there, hopefully. That's all I have for you.
Houses he want to put on that lot.
Oh, he hasn't, he was still, you think you could get a large lot, but it's still only as wide as a standard lot, so it really can't be that huge. He said he just wants one single family house and a garage. Absolutely, and the way the land is over there, there's really not much you can do after a certain point. It kind of,
Pretty rough now.
it is. It would take a lot of fill dirt and a lot of grading to be able to make it.
I don't understand then, why is he wanting to do this? Why did he buy all 6 of them? I don't quite, I guess I'm not getting it. If he's not putting a big huge house in here, and he just wants the land so he can mow the grass,
I'm guessing it was you buy all 6 or you buy none.
That would be my guess. Probably.
Yeah.
If he wants one, he's got to buy.
Buy 'em all.
5, 6.
Why did he buy them all? Why were we replatting it? He could buy them, build his house in the first 2, and then have
So,
an avenue down the road if the city ever, I assume that's Gene Oliver's land. Like, I don't know why we're replatting this. You can buy all 6 and be done with it. You
No,
just need to
okay,
replat it.
okay. So in order to get access, we have to replat it, so you we have to vacate the right of way. So in order and get our easements and extend the sewer easement. So instead of going through the process of obtaining those, the easiest and cleanest way to do it was just to replat. And we'd also have to switch the build lines because his access is gonna be coming on Poplar Ridge, not towards, Cherokee Lake, not Poplar Ridge. So the cleanest way to do it was to replat them all as one. So we didn't have to have a public hearing to get rid of the right of way and notify everybody. Because that is a very time consuming, expensive process. And to legally acquire utility easements. This was just the easiest and cleanest way to do it.
Because when those were originally platted, the access to those lots were gonna come off of the Popular Ridge
Correct.
extension when they built it.
And if he wanted access off the extension, he would have to develop that road to meet. Correct. And so the easiest way and the most inexpensive way for him to be able to build is to vacate that right away, give him access off Cherokee Lane, like all the other ones off Cherokee Lane have a driveway. And go that way. So essentially, it'll look like the lots along Cherokee Lane, it'll just be very, very long. This is exactly.
Right now, those aren't buildable without building
No,
the
correct.
extension down through there, and you can't build the extension down through there unless you can get the right of way off the ground to the west of there.
Yep.
Which doesn't work very well, if I remember right.
Correct.
I remember when we did this whole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, John and I were on there, and that was, when they did this, they had anticipated being able to acquire the ground to the west of there so that they would have their 30-foot easement. And when they got to develop these lots, they would build a road in there. But then the gentleman that owned that ground passed away, and I don't know who owns it now.
I can't say it's off my head, but yeah.
I can't think of who owned it then, but he was living in it last.
And I'm pretty sure that these were put on the low, very affordable, and that's pretty much what he said. He goes, I can afford this, I want to do this, I want my house. I said, okay.
Yeah, because the lots to the south there are pretty, I mean, I remember doing all this, and those lots to the south are pretty rough.
Yes.
They were gonna take a lot to do it, I mean, to do any kind of development. That's why they did all the rest of it.
And with all of the overhead power line easements,
Yeah,
those lots are essentially.
then you've got that KCP&L alleyway there, now it's probably Evergy, but that alleyway down through there, down to their power station.
At one point, I think they tried to acquire that, say, we'll pay that if we use it for access, and they wouldn't let them. So that was another item they tried.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that deal too.
Well, it's pretty rough ground. I mean, I haven't driven down there and
Yeah,
looked at it. I don't
The
know.
further south you go, the more it drops off and the rockier it becomes.
A lot of trees. and-
Yeah, there's some trees down in there, because it's just, they basically just let it grow over the years. It's just pretty growing up. But that was always a big issue back when they planted this, was these are gonna be our last lots to develop because they're just a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
Floodplain.
Yeah, the floodplain, it comes up, I mean, not in this development, but it gets pretty close to right around the KCP and L service station down here. But if you look at the arrow, you can kind of see how rocky it gets after probably the first 2.5 blocks. And it's a bowl, it drops off down there.
I think this is setting us up for something. I really do. I don't like this. But
Something about just to do something the easy way. It's just, I don't know. It's,
It was our idea to replat. It was not the applicant, if that's what you're thinking or questioning, because there was no, this was the cleanest way to do it, to be sure that the city was protected and had our easements, as well as vacating the right of way.
we're taking a residential area, doing 6 lots to a guy, an individual, I don't know, build whatever, and then I assume this is Gene Oliver's to the west.
I don't know.
He owns, whatever, that's a huge lot there, and we develop that later, and we build more residential. This doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't.
With the zoning in suburban, you can only do residential there. So if you're worried about a commercial or anything like that, it will be residential for the zoning. Unless they want a zoning change, that'll be a whole nother process. You have to come back and get approved. This is a
And
thoroughfare.
if somebody builds builds a subdivision to the west of there,
Mhm.
they're going to have to acquire the 60 feet right away.
Yes.
They're going to have to build the road up to city standards, which is gutters and all that, and concrete, and all of that. So if somebody does develop to the west, then Popular Ridge will be then developed at that point in time by that developer
Yes.
and the road put in. I'm not uncomfortable with it from the standpoint of, I know what it was intended to do. So being here in 2004 and doing it originally, I know what was intended originally, and that it's never happened. And with those six lots, those 6 lots are never going to be developed, in my opinion, are never going to be developed just based on the cost of the road that's going to have to go in there and the acquisition of the easement to the west of there, or the other 30-foot of ground that they couldn't get bought back then. And even if they could get bought right now, they couldn't afford to put the road in and everything and sell those lots and make any money whatsoever off of them. So the chance of those ever being developed is pretty slim as individual lots, unless somebody decides to build to the west and put a subdivision into the west. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Other than that, this land, those lots are just going to sit there from now till eternity, because nobody's going to build on them. I mean, nobody's going to do anything. You can get to it another way, but it's going to be more expensive. It's going to be, as Randy said, they're going to have to go through the easements, all those easements, and change them so they can come off of the Cherokee Lane. So I understand what they're wanting to do. But I also understand your feeling toward, or your thoughts too, and Jim's. It is, yeah, it is unusual.
So all we're doing is sending it to the city council, right? So this one is just going to.
And then the city council can override whatever we decide.
I feel like this is total progress. I'm gonna vote no. I mean, I don't know if this is not a public hearing. I don't like it. I don't have a good feeling about it. I don't. But never voted twice in one meeting. I think I've only voted twice ever, or twice in this.
Hey, at least.
Let's set a record.
Well,
I'll make a motion.
okay, go ahead and make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to recommend approval of replating for lots 16 through 21 on Cherokee Ridge.
And I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We got a split vote. I don't know what happens now. City council gets to- city
Thankfully, it
council
wasn't public
gets-
hearing. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, city council gets to decide now. All right, Randy, what else you got for us?
All right, projects. So, if you guys follow our Facebook, we have put out there that there is, we have contracted with Midland and Sam Surveying to do a GIS project in town. They're going through and they are locating all of our water and sewer systems. So we have it all together, and so we can do master planning and keep track of our maintenance and things like that for our infrastructure. We passed a right-of-way ordinance, and now we have a right-of-way policy, so we can keep better track and a better hand on all of those utility companies trying to get in our right-of-way that have been going crazy all summer. In June, the CID for the Ursuline, I would say Ursuline, probably it's not Ursuline property anymore, but the Hedge Lane and Bad Peace property, hospital Bad.
Earthly property.
There you go, Ursuline property was approved in June. They are still going through some traffic studies and things like that before they build, but it is all approved. It's all in the developer hands now, so we're pretty happy about that. The land purchase agreement and the development agreement have been approved with DPI and the industrial park, so that is officially their lot. Starting the week after Labor Day weekend, we're going to rebuild West Miami and East Kaskaskia Street, complete tear out and rebuild of those streets. We're trying to slowly rebuild some of our streets to help our drainage, because we all know how Paola drains. And then, last but not least, I am working on a RFP to put out to start our comprehensive plan. So we are going to try to do a new comprehensive plan to whoever was on the plan commission when we did it the first time. So you're stuck with us. Sorry, you can't get off. But I think that's all I have for you guys. A lot of craziness going on with COVID, but
How much of East Kaskaskia?
oh gosh, you would ask that. I don't
Is it
know.
quite a bit? or-
Yes, it's quite a bit.
They're doing it in-house or hiring it out.
They hired it out.
Good.
They did engineered plans and everything. We're not doing it ourselves now. Because it's complete
Yeah,
stormwater.
that's a big,
Yeah. So we're gonna try this and see how it works. And if we like it, we'll put it in our master plan and move forward.
So is Glassmeyer still planning on building out there?
Gosh, yes. I keep asking and he keeps saying, oh, we'll do it fall, we'll do it winter, we'll do it fall, we'll do it winter. But I keep getting on him and he keeps saying he's gonna build, so.
Pay the tax?
Yeah, he better. Uh-oh, he hasn't paid taxes? Uh-oh, I hope
I
so.
thought I saw something in the paper the other night about it.
I'll have to check on that.
Look at the list in the paper.
Ah.
It may not be that lot, I don't know, but there were a couple things he hadn't paid taxes on, I think, if I remember right.
But, with all of the Spark money or COVID relief money, the county has gotten, they've gotten about 7 million, but a lot of that we would be reimbursements for entities. So they developed a Spark committee, which they were going to focus on 5 areas: workforce development, education, digital access, human and family services, and housing assistance. So they had a bunch. Were you in on this, John? Did they ask you to be in on the Spark team? I don't know if you did or not. They asked some members from the community, along as schools and government entities. So long story short, I was on the housing assistance and I was in Zoom meetings for 16 hours to decide to put in my input on how we should spend this money for housing assistance for the county commissioners to give some input on how they should spend it. So Sid was on the digital access, our new city manager. Stephanie, our city clerk, was on human and family services. And Janelle with the chamber was on the workforce development, and I was on housing assistance. So I think, and Emily was on education, our library director. I think we covered all of them, but it was not a fun time. But we did what we were supposed to do. We listened, we participated, we gave our input, and it's all in their hands now. So it's great. Other than that, that's all I have for you guys.
The little fire access road to the north off of, I guess you're saying it was 293rd. There's a little,
right across from the public
Yeah.
Works department,
yeah, the,
supposed to be construction access, so
Probably
yeah, I think it was for the fire department to have another,
temporary easement, yeah.
in case the road got blocked down there.
Okay.
But I noticed that with the construction going on and the cement trucks are dumping their old cement right there,
Oh,
going out in the edge of that field. I was just kind of wondering how that is all playing out.
Good question. Thank you.
I mean, I think that's still Dennis Dory's ground.
It is, I think.
But that was a question. When I seen what they were doing, and it just keeps piling up. It seems like somebody ought to be accountable for that.
I don't know what he's got going on. But yeah, I'll just look into that.
Yeah, that was just something I noticed.
Just for the record, I don't do Facebook either,
No, I don't either.
just so you know.
Thank you. But that's all I have, you guys. I appreciate your time. Sorry, one more longer one.
All right, I'll move to dismiss.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
All right.
You voted all for in that one.
That's always a given.
So this is really off the record, but is there anything we do about butcher's lights? This is not the ordinance. I thought somebody would complain before me, but
Which one, the
street
street lights?
they're blinding.
They're not pointing down anymore, they have shields. I'll get Bill on it.
Yeah, they've got one, when you're coming down Old Kansas City Road, you're looking right at that light.
I'm not a complainer, but that's, I like El Butcher, we eat there a lot.
But it's pretty bright, I agree. Oh, by the way, the entryway to Country Club looks nice.
Thank you, we're getting there, we're having trouble getting power under the road, so.
It does look good.
Thank you.
What else you got left? Just lights up and that's
Lights
it?
up, landscape, we won't do landscape till fall, but
Thank you.
we'll be here soon.
That looks, quite honestly, that looks a lot better than the old.
Even if those rocks have been there for 200 years.
All right, Randy, thank you.
Have a good day.